Hello there, welcome back to the channel. Obviously, we are T-minus 1 day from the start of the NFL season with the Chiefs and Lions. And Chiefs and Lions is where I want to start because, yes, there is some very big news that has happened today, literally 2 hours ago, as I record this at 5:45 Eastern Time. But with it being the first game of the season tomorrow, we may as well start with news that concerns the game tomorrow, and that is Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. As I'm sure you've all seen the news, he's injured his knee. More than likely going to be in a non-contact fashion because this close to the game time, you probably wouldn't imagine them doing much physical work. However, he is now being listed as questionable on the Kansas City Chiefs injury report ahead of the game. So, and all the reports coming out straight away were that this was a short-term injury. Now, this wasn't a case of ACL done for the year before the season even started. Which is obviously good. And on a further story of that, Diana Rossini, who was speaking on the herd. By the way, I have my clipboard back. I managed to find some paper. Travis Kelce, Diana Rossini rather, on the herd, stating her belief, and this wasn't an inside source or anything like that. This was her saying that if the swelling is contained on the knee, I think that he will push to try and play again. I think he will push. This isn't no inside sources are saying Travis Kelce has told the Chiefs that he will and all that sort of stuff. Her belief that he will try to play because he's a football fanatic, as it were. So nothing. It was always going to be hard to keep him down. My thoughts always go back to Jason Witten starting the season, the 2012 season, because it was against the New York Giants in the first week. When he had a lacerated spleen or a lacerated kidney. Something was lacerated. And he said that he was willing to sign a waiver to play because to sort of forgive the Cowboys of any injury risk ahead of the game. I actually can't remember off the top of my head whether or not he played. I think he did, but I can't remember on that. But anyway, so Travis Kelce, it's up in the air whether or not he will play. In my honest opinion, I would sit him out for this because this is the thing. And it goes on to what I'm saying. Whilst I understand that the Chiefs are going to be they are not the same team without Travis Kelce. Whilst they have Patrick Mahomes, the fact that they're missing their number one target and have not quite developed a very good, a great number two target behind it. They did have Tyreek Hill. They have Mecole Hardman who could fill in somewhere. I just don't trust the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core. They are B plus A minus. And Patrick Mahomes brings them up a level, a grade, but it's just not quite the same. The threat without Travis Kelce, it just isn't there. So, and whilst I've sort of said the Kansas City Chiefs and Gizos for the vast majority of AFC teams because of how close this is, given that it is an injury situation, the others it was talking about contracts and how important they were rather. This is an injury thing. And I think there is an element here. I believe I spoke about it with Joe Burrow. There is a belief that and an idea that lose the battle to win the war. Again, hopefully they don't lose the first battle. Again, the Detroit Lions. Everyone's still trying to work out what they are. Are we buying into the hype? Is it all hype? Is there actually some substance behind it? All that sort of stuff. Not 100% sure, but say the Detroit Lions are who we think they are, and they are turning out to be a good team, then there is every chance that the Kansas City Chiefs could lose to the Lions. So there is always that threat. However, you would like to think with the team that the Kansas City Chiefs have, and again, Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes' magic man, and again, bringing up the other players up a level with his ability, they might be able to squeak out a win. Obviously, the best case scenario would be Kelce rests, Chiefs win, come back next week, everything's sorted. There is that hope, but as Mike Greenberg was saying on ESPN's Get Up this morning, Andy Reid has always been one to err on the side of caution. When it comes to the last weeks of the season when playoff seeds are wrapped up and everything, he rests players. He isn't one to give players a series to keep them ticking along and everything. He rests them all. He rests them. So I think with that all being said, with the fact that Travis Kelce is questionable for tomorrow, I don't think he's going to play. I just think there is far too much to be lost with Travis Kelce in playing the upstart Detroit Lions, if you would. There's far too much for them to lose if he gets re-injured than it is if he plays. So again, there's going to be a lot of emphasis and a lot of trust put on Patrick Mahomes and the wide receivers like Montavious Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore. Sky Moore, who I actually quite like. I think he's got a lot of potential, but hasn't quite developed into the A+ number one wide receiver just yet. So there's always that. I think they do have enough to get past him, to get past the Lions without Kelce. Why is my hair gel not sticking? There we go. Hopefully that's better. There is enough for them to get past the Lions without Kelce, but it's very much a 50-50. I don't think that he's going to play, but at the same time, I would not be surprised if Andy Reid does decide we want to start off on the right foot. Again, as I've said, the AFC, one game can make a big difference in the playoff standings. So let's maybe keep him on a pitch clock, as everyone says, or a snap count. Don't play him every single snap. Rotate him in on first and third downs. Say don't play second downs, all that sort of thing. There are ways around it, but honestly, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play a single snap. I just think there's far too much to be lost if he gets injured than if he stays. Right, now moving on to the biggest news of the day, and that is obviously concerning Nick Bosa, defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers. After all the back and forth, and they are X amount apart and everything, they have finally come to a deal. $170 million over 5 years with $122.5 million guaranteed. As I've said before, worth every single penny. He is a game changer. You pay him what he asked for. However, I do want to point out one thing, and I want to give credit to Ari Mayrov. I don't want to mispronounce the name, but it's at My Sports Update on Twitter, where he's actually made a pretty interesting point that I want to touch on. And he says, and I quote this from Twitter: the 49ers have the highest paid defensive end, Nick Bosa, highest paid running back, Christian McCaffrey, highest paid fullback in Kyle Juszczyk, third highest paid tight end in George Kittle, third highest paid left tackle in Trent Williams, the third highest paid linebacker in Fred Warner, sixth highest paid defensive tackle in Javon Hargrave, and the seventh highest paid wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. He does also add at the end, meanwhile their quarterback Brock Purdy makes the least amount of all NFL starters at $934,000. Now, what this says to me is, I mean, it is the obvious thing to say, but I think this puts the San Francisco 49ers all in on this year. Obviously, they have come close a couple of times in the past. Back-to-back AFC Championship games. They lost to the Eagles and they lost to the Rams. They were in the Super Bowl a couple of years before that, so they have the pieces are there for them. Just haven't been able to quite get over the lump. But I think when you look at it that way, knowing that if Brock Purdy does continue to be Brock Purdy and wasn't just a flash in the pan from last year, he's going to need to be paid as well, and could, again, depending on how things go, could be one of the $50 million quarterback contracts. If he continues on this rise, he could be somewhere in the middle, maybe 35 million. Either way, assuming he gets a big contract, they're not going to be able to afford everyone. So that does effectively put a time limit on when this whole 49ers thing can come to an end. Now, I do have the 49ers winning the Super Bowl this year. Especially now that they've got the Nick Bosa deal done, and the belief is that he should be able to play some part against the Steelers on Sunday. Whether or not he is, similar to Travis Kelce, whether or not they put him on a snap count, and to keep him limited, play 50% whilst he gets up to full speed. But the fact is, even a 50% Travis Kelce still has the power to 50% Nick Bosa rather still has the power to be a game changer. So keep an eye out for that moving forward. As I just adjust my light. Get out of the way. Hang on. There we go. Hopefully all is good now. So anyway, what was I? So with everything that's going on with the San Francisco 49ers, again, I think this is a all or bust year for the 49ers, because I don't think this level of pay for what they are getting is going to be able to be sustainable moving forward. They are going to have to start paying other players as well. Again, the main one being Brock Purdy. They may be able to do a Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce of get them to take less to buy into the picture and make sure that everyone's paid. They might be able to, but when you're talking about that many players, it's going to be a bit of a stretch. So it's going to be tough for them to be able to afford everyone moving forward. But if they can get everything, if everything can come together this year and they can win a Super Bowl, everything will be worth it. Similar to the Rams, you probably think the honeymoon is over for the Rams in regards to, oh yes, they won the Super Bowl, but at least they won the Super Bowl and they do have that. They can hold on to it for a couple of years at least. So I'd imagine the 49ers are probably going to go down that way of, again, this is everything in this year. They're sacrificing financial. The Rams sacrificed draft picks and first rounders, and the lack of an ability to develop in the draft. This is more of a financial situation. Obviously, the Rams had their financial issues as well, but at least the 49ers have some levels of draft picks. Again, hopefully coming back with the Trey Lance stuff. Hopefully they can turn that into something. Moving forward, we're going to go to college football now, and this is something I've talked about, I believe, on my previous work with Give Me Sport, but the fact that it's now coming from bigger sources, it was always sort of he might do, he might not do, but now it's coming from the father of Caleb Williams, basically is where I'm going to, in GQ stating that he can come back to school, was the quote, basically saying that Caleb Williams, who is in many people's eyes going to be the number one pick in the draft as of right now. Again, injury may affect something. There may be a star that comes in and absolutely catapults above him. I don't see it happening, but there is always that one. There is always that one player. Basically, I'm not going to say it's a threat, but has basically hinted that if he isn't happy with whoever is the number one pick in the draft, which team has the number one pick, he's basically saying he will go back to school. He has his eligibility. He can make money with the name, image, and likeness thing that's going on with college football. There is the possibility that he will want to stay behind. Whether that be the Arizona Cardinals are the ones that come straight to mind just because of how they have handled things and the fact they have the Houston Texans pick this year, so the chance of them being very low down are very high. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team I can see in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. How their rebuild goes, you don't know, what they're able to promise him. You don't know. There are a couple of teams that you could throw into the mix. As well. But I genuinely think that now it's coming from these more credible sources. This isn't just one person has heard one thing and has started to speculate. The fact that his father has basically come out and said this, it does, I would say, put a lot of teams on alert that tanking this year may not be the best thing, because what you are tanking for might not be the what you maybe. How can I come with that? You might be digging for treasure and then just find out someone's already taken it. Is the best way that I can put it. So there is that threat, as you were. Now, whether or not this means that it maybe puts good teams on alert or better teams on alert, I think a well-run team like the Seattle Seahawks, say they are a middle-of-the-road team. Again, I'm just speculating here. Say they are a middle-of-the-road team, and Geno Smith drops down from where he was last year, but the Seahawks are still respectable. They might then make the move to say, right, Geno Smith, we regret paying you this money. Obviously, we can get Caleb Williams for a little bit cheaper because of the rookie salary cap and everything. We're gonna go to Caleb Williams. Try and trade up to the number one pick and get Caleb Williams. That might be an avenue for them to explore. I'm just trying to think if there's any sort of middling of the road teams. I don't want to say the Jets, because if the Aaron Rodgers situation doesn't work out, I still think there's belief that Zach Wilson can do it. I'd laugh if it was the Patriots. Say if they are competitive and come out with a 6-11 record and are picking around 9th and then make the drop down. I could see that being a possibility, especially if the whole Mac Jones thing doesn't work out. And Caleb Williams, again, if before the draft or before he has to declare himself eligible, the Patriots drop down for the number one pick, I could see him moving in that sense. But if it is the Arizona Cardinals or if it is one of the other, so to speak, bad teams, then definitely I can definitely see him making good use of that threat rather and sticking with USC for another year, at least giving it another go around just to see what comes of it. Moving on, and again another quarterback to be talked about, and in one of the more, I'd say, I do credit the journalism on this. I want to give credit to Seth Wickersham of ESPN for what he's been able to come out with, and what he was able to dig up. Basically, writing an article on ESPN about Sean Payton and his son with the Denver Broncos, and his evisceration, shall we say, of quarterback Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson had his issues last year. What you want to put that down to is, quite frankly, anybody's guess. Whether it is he didn't want to the offense into the style, whether it was getting used to new surroundings, whether a whole bunch of things. Either way, Russell Wilson was not Russell Wilson that we know, and if you want love. I like him, I don't love him. But yeah, basically, Sean Payton has gone in on Russell Wilson with how he's behaved as the member of the Denver Broncos, and sort of in the past couple of years as well. The line that everyone has come out, and I will clean it up because there was a swear word in it, so I will clean it up. Stop kissing so many babies, you're not running for office here. Brilliant. I absolutely love that phrase because it's a way for Sean Payton to assert his authority over Russell Wilson, whilst also, I think, getting a lot of players and I think a lot of fans on side as well. Because if you look at what Russell Wilson has done, and I want to talk to, and I want to bring back, again on Get Up this morning, it was Mike Tannenbaum said, and someone else said it on Undisputed this morning. I can't remember who it was, but I'll go with Mike Tannenbaum on Get Up. He basically brought out the Bill Parcells rules of quarterbacks, and he said rule number 11 is you don't want a celebrity quarterback, or don't let your quarterback be a celebrity. Words to the effect of. And if you look at the way Russell Wilson has acted, he hasn't necessarily been a team first person. In the obvious, whether it is his extended celebrity status now that he's with his marriage to Sierra and everything like that. And I think also the obvious one is his, and I was at the press conference for this last season when he announced it, but the high plane, the high knees on the plane to Wembley whilst everyone else was sleeping, which he might have thought was a way of saying, "Oh, look at my work ethic. Whilst everyone else is sleeping, I'm putting in the work and everything." But it just came a little bit of this is all about me. And Sean Payton has also said this offseason that Russell Wilson had his own special privileges, shall we say, with the Denver Broncos last season, and he wanted to get rid of them. So Russell Wilson has sort of, he seems like a very nice guy. I'm not trying to say he's a bad person. I'm sure he opens the door for old ladies and sends flowers to his wife on weekly occasions. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but just in terms of how he's been as a football player and in the building and as a quarterback, he has sort of gone. Again, at least from the outside, he has gone a little bit too big for his boots in the very recent past. So I think this was a great way for Sean Payton to basically try and reel him in and also assert his authority over the rest of the team that, hey, I'm not giving anyone any special privileges here. But this is a team effort, and if I think you need a kick up the backside, I will give you that kick up the backside. I'm even willing to do it to the quarterback. So I want to praise Seth Wickersham for getting that answer out of Sean Payton, and for Sean Payton for for having the guts to say it again about someone who is so important to the franchise in Russell Wilson. There's a lot of hope that maybe Sean Payton can turn him into Drew Brees 2.0. I think is the belief. Short quarterback, known for their accuracy. Working on the Sean Payton, Drew Brees 2.0, I think is what most people are expecting and hoping from Russell Wilson this year. So hopefully that can happen, and if it does, then maybe the Broncos are on their way back up as a franchise. But no, and hopefully this is the kick up the backside that they need. And then just one final bit of news: Joe Burrow, by all various reports, a contract appears to be on the way soon. Now I don't want to get into I've talked about Joe Burrow and his injury situation. I haven't really spoken much about his contract situation. If you look at the players that came out in his draft, Justin Herbert has got paid. Jalen Hurts has got paid. Tua Tagovailoa looks as if he's going to get paid. They've already picked up his 5th-year option, but it looks as if he looks as if he's on the way to a big pay deal. Joe Burrow, again, it looks as if it was always going to be. There was always going to be a deal for him, but now it looks as if it is coming soon. And again, I just want to put this, a bit of praise on the Bengals for at least you got it done now rather than dragging it out even further, because even if this had gone on for a couple of weeks in the season, and we saw him, leading the MVP race and everything. A bit like how we saw Lamar Jackson, in some people's eyes, leading the MVP race last season. In the first couple of weeks before he started to trail off. But if Joe Burrow can put up big MVP level performances in the first couple of weeks, then that is only going to drive the asking price for Joe Burrow higher and higher and higher. So by getting it done now before week 1, and by all accounts as well, by comments, he looks to be back fully involved in practice. So he's healed, and obviously there was obviously the thing, if he came back to practice early and he got re-injured, what was that going to do to the contract situation? So it sounds as if everything is all going to be wrapped up in a neat little package. Just when this is all going to be announced, maybe it's going to be a pre-game thing, maybe it's going to be Saturday to get the Bengals fans hyped for the season. Oh no. We kick off, on something on social media. We kick off tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, we've got some even bigger news for you. This guy's here for 5, 6, 7 years, or whatever they want to. Again, whatever they want to give him, he deserves. Even though he is of the Bengals, Joe Burrow is a quarterback I absolutely love and have a lot of respect for as well. So, again, he's one who deserves every single penny that he's going to get from the Bengals. And it sounds as if it's coming soon. So that is it. As I've said, there's going to be no traditional news tomorrow unless there is something big breaking that I might touch on. Again, maybe the Joe Burrow news comes through and we are able to dissect exactly how much he got and all that sort of thing. But tomorrow is going to be my individual, shall we say, season preview where I predict MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, rookies, coaches, comebacks, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, looking forward to doing that. As always, feel free to like and subscribe. Links to my other socials are down in the description. Again, go check out baldwinsportsmedia.com every day, which is where the daily articles are coming out. And yeah, I think that's really it. Again, we've made it, guys. But again, by the time some of you read this, it will officially be. Not read this. Watch this. It will officially be the day that the NFL season kicks off. And may the best team win, as it is. I'm just glad to have the summer boredom officially over now that we've got preseason out of the way and the regular season is with us. So you guys all take care, and I'll see you tomorrow for season previews and again the start of the season.